Hi class, today we're going to be talking about observer reactivity and the difference between that and observer drift. So initially we need to understand what these things are. So observer reactivity is when we have a change in the observer's data collection because of being watched or not being watched. And what that means is if my supervisor is standing over me watching me collect the data, I am on it. There's no phone in my hand unless I'm taking data on it. I'm not writing down my schedule for the week. I'm not texting other clients. I am watching that student or that subject and definitively collecting the data. When the supervisor is not there, maybe I'm on my phone. Maybe I have a hangnail that I'm playing with and not watching my student. So it's about the data collector changing their behavior by being watched or not being watched. On the other side of this, we have the observer drift. Now that is referred to usually as a drift in the coding criterion. Kennedy tells us that observers are the primary source of error in observational data. And that's because we let our definitions of what the data is or isn't change throughout time. Sometimes this is just implicit. You see a student throw a pencil, and sometimes you code that as property damage or as throwing, and other times, unless you see them throw the pencil with intent to attack another student or a teacher, you don't code it the same. So over the course of getting to maybe know our subjects or knowing the design of the study, it can change how we're coding the data. What we're considering to meet the criteria to mark that tally or whatever for the data. How do we correct this? It's all in training. As far as the observer reactivity, we need to let the data recorders know that they're being observed, that data is being checked. Let them know that even if you're not physically coming to watch them collect the data, that someone else is taking data on different days, or come take IOA data, so that they are aware that they need to be spot on with their data collection. With the drift, what I like to do is clearly have the definitions on the data sheet so that have a definition and a non-definition, or an example and a non-example, so that there's no gray area in the data collection, so that we can make sure that we get all of that. Real quick, let's go over the quiz questions. Number one, when we were talking about observer reactivity, whose behavior is it that changes? It's the observer, the data collector. Their behavior changes. And what happens when observer drift occurs? We know that we let our definitions be loose, and we collect data that isn't, we mark data, we score data that is there differently because of our definition, our criteria changing. Hope you learned today, and it was fun. Thanks.